Hello, Peter Hopwood, my good friend from Croatia. You are a TEDx and a speaker coach, and you're here today on the Big Deals show to talk about what you know and what you have taught people around the world when it comes to making engagement, virtual presentations, how to get the most out of your audience and deliver your messages in the best way possible. And I know that one of the hot topics these times, I've had Rachel Kosar on here before, is virtual presence, like in Zoom meetings like we are having now, and how we can take some of the good tips and tricks that we have on stage and put them on screen, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Taking that engagement and all the good things you do offline and bringing it to this square box to try to get the same chemistry, the same engagement, and the same connection. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. What got you into this from the very get-go? The whole speaker coaching thing, the whole virtual presence thing, and engagement.
Well, it starts back many years ago. So many years ago, working for a hospitality company across Europe, and a lot of that job was, in fact, presenting the resort, presenting all the great things you could do on holiday, presenting all the experiences, the moments, those emotions, and so through those presentations, incidentally, which I was doing 3 or 4 times a week, the same presentation all the time. So for me, it was all about really changing the small things, changing the way you speak, the way you share your messages, some words that you change, the feeling behind the words, even how you move. All these things come together in terms of the perception of others, how they see you, and ultimately for me in that job, whether people would buy from me or not. So this was something I was fascinated by and really enjoyed and felt I had a talent with, and kind of fast forward till today, up until last year, at the beginning of last year, all my work was literally helping people face to face to share their messages, craft their stories, and deliver their stories in front of a crowd. So TEDx coaching, helping CEOs to share their keynote at a conference, or simply just a team leader who needs to improve the way he shares his messages. Up until last year, it was face to face. Then, obviously, we all know what happened, and all my work literally stopped physically. And then quickly I had to kind of change, adapt, and bring everything online. And then that's where I started to really focus on those differences and the skill set you need to do this really well, to get the same engagement, the same connection, the same chemistry, and get people to trust you, get people to engage with you and feel like you're connecting with them. And that's quite different. It's quite different because the skill set, as we all know, it's different.
Yeah.
There are many things which are slightly different, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're better. It doesn't necessarily mean it's more difficult. It's just that it's a different skill set, and the quicker you kind of become more aware of that, the quicker you can start to get more engagement and more connection with the people that you're talking to. So whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, whether it's an intro call, a discovery call, that moment where both of you are kind of figuring out whether you're a right fit to work together or not. The collaboration potentially is there, but you just need to have that connection first. And so often it's very difficult for us to get that connection because so many things are lost. But yeah, that's that in a nutshell. That's really from the beginning until now in terms of what I do.
Yeah, and so we all maybe thought that we knew that when we went online on Zoom meetings that there wasn't that huge a difference because you could still see each other, etc. But a lot of us that worked with nonverbals and worked with presentations and negotiation and stuff like that, we realized before, and we realized even more when it went virtual, that still, although we can see each other, we can hear each other, there's still some empathy gaps and some communication gaps that we need to fill in order to not fill in the blanks, but to to maybe cover up the blanks and get the best out of it. So what do you see as the most challenging part on either giving presentations online, like, a lot of online training takes place these days, or virtual meetings? What are the key differences from the in-person method?
Yeah, I think the first thing to focus on and to remember and to be really aware of is when things come to a screen, when we're looking at a screen, whatever's in front of us, usually it's designed to keep our attention, right? So think about this: Netflix or a movie or even an app on a mobile phone, a pop video, anything that we watch on TV, even a football match, there are things happening, the angles, the different ways of the screenshots, the different elements popping up on the screen. All of this is designed to keep our attention, because they know, people who design things for screens, for audiences, they know that our attention span is a lot shorter. Yeah. So if I was presenting to you in a hall at a conference, and we were face to face, or we were doing a training face to face, you're in front of me, I'm standing up, maybe you're sitting down, and I'm sharing training about public speaking, for example, your attention would be pretty much focused on what I'm saying. Now and again, maybe your mind would go off here and there, but literally, because you're physically there looking at me and you're facing my direction, I've got more or less your attention. Here on screen, I don't necessarily have that, because our attention spans are a lot shorter. So what does that mean? That means that whatever we do here in this screen, we have to make sure that we're doing things to keep people's attention, and that we can do through our voice, through the variety of our voice, through what people see. So this, you can see I'm using my hands a lot. You can see that I'm really up to this level here. I'm kind of, this is my space here. And I'm making sure that you can see what they're doing, and I'm moving them as well. Right? So my voice, what you see, also the things that I'm saying, and the sounds that you're hearing, there's variety there. And you can also see the way I'm moving. Sometimes I'm moving slightly forward. Sometimes I'm moving my head to the side. Sometimes I maybe move back. So we have to remember, we have to keep people's attentions quicker, and we have to do it in a way that is shorter, sharper, and clearer. So there's no time for waffle. There's no time to say things that don't really bring value. There's only time for the things that really actually are important, and people appreciate that. So people's time is very, very different online. Okay.
So you also, I know you have a thing for storytelling, and I read a pretty interesting study from 2019 at University at Buffalo, where Melanie Green and some of her researchers found out that storytelling was much more effective than relying on statistics or facts when you were trying to convey something and maybe even convince somebody. So there's definitely something about using stories to get that engagement. And before we get into your take on storytelling, I think what's also very interesting is when you talk about the tone and the pitch and how you engage people by being more enthusiastic in your tone. What I have found was quite effective when I do my own teaching of negotiators and conflict resolution people, is to really, if you don't have it, then invent a passion for what you're talking about. Because when you're passionate, most people, of course, you have the extreme introverts, but most people that are slightly above introvert and upwards, they tend to have a natural energetic intonation when they're passionate about something. So if you're giving a speech or talking about a subject that is not within your heart of passion, you can trick yourself into thinking this is the most interesting topic, because if you fool yourself like that, you will instantly have a much more dynamic voice, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the thing you said about passion. So whenever anybody shows passion or shows enthusiasm, shows that they mean their words, they believe their words, regardless of the content, regardless of it, whether you believe it, whether it's moral, whether it's true, whether it's good, whether it's bad. Whenever you show that passion, that enthusiasm, people tend to listen. So think about dictators. Dictators are a really good example of that, because clearly, obviously dictatorship is not a good thing, but people tend to listen to them because they've got something to say. And they say it with passion. So anything you say with more enthusiasm and believing in it, it's going to get people to listen to you, because at the end of the day, nobody owes you their time to listen to you. Right now, this conversation that we're having here, nobody owes me or you, Mikhail, that to listen to us. Hopefully people will listen to it because you've introduced it well. They know what they're going to get. They're staying with us, hopefully, because they're finding bits of value as this unfolds. They're going to get something from it, but nobody owes us a thing. So we have to gain their ears. We have to gain their trust. And one of those ways is naturally sharing that passion and sharing that enthusiasm. And as you've said, a story. So anything to do with a story. Story for me is really emotions. Sharing something that's happened or something that potentially will happen as a story, potential story, but it's all about emotions. So we as humans, we want to hear how other people feel. That's a really good phrase, I think. We want to hear, and we're curious about how other people feel, whether they feel good, whether they feel great, whether they feel nervous, whether they feel disappointed, drama, whatever it is. These are all like common emotions that we all feel, and we kind of want to know what's happening. So when you tell a story about what happened to you in the past, and there was emotions connected with that, it usually gets people to prick up their ears. You think about Big Brother. The format of Big Brother, the TV show, that is all based simply on the curiosity that we have to know what happens behind closed doors about people and how they react with each other and how they interact with each other. A newspaper, a women's magazine, for example, Cosmopolitan, or whatever it is. All that is just people's curiosity to know about celebrities and what's happening in their life, whether they get divorced, whether they're having a baby, whether they've had an argument, or what their opinion is or something. So we kind of, stories help us do that. So a story about you, about somebody else, all these are just simply emotions. And often it doesn't even have to be epic. When we think of storytelling, the word storytelling, many of us kind of think about, certainly clients that I work with at the beginning of our sessions, when we discuss what storytelling really means to them, often it's about a kind of big, epic achievement.
Once a time there was a...
absolutely. Once upon a time, blah, 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 blah. Right? So, but in fact, and that's good, that's always good. But in fact, it's a lot simpler than that, because it's just simply emotions that we're all feeling, things that have happened to us, things that happen to other people, and then the connections we can take from that story, which is relevant. Also, remember, online, we haven't got time for long stories. So if I said to you, if I started a story now, like once upon a time, there was this young man. So again, I'm sort of building it up to be a long story. We haven't got time on this story online. So when you ask me about how I started, I deliberately tried to kind of squeeze everything very quickly, bang, 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 and give you a kind of overview of my past and how I got to where I am today. Right? Because I know online. I know online you haven't got the time to listen to the whole thing, and listeners haven't got the time. So if we're on stage, we can take that out, we can move that further. That's fine, because we have people's attention. It's easier to keep their attention. Doesn't necessarily mean we have them, but it's easier to keep that. Online, it's more difficult. So our stories have to be mini stories in a way. Yeah, kind of little
Yeah.
little mini stories,
Yeah.
and share it. And the real talent is crafting those stories in a way that's sharp, clear, and gets to the message straight away.
Yeah, I totally agree that the storytelling is the same, but it's also different because on stage or in person, you have the opportunity to connect more deeper, so you can make the story longer without losing the audience. Where online, as you say, you need to be more concise. It doesn't have to be like a beginning, middle, and the end. That needs to be very drawn out. You can have pretty concise. And I also think that if you manage just to make people experience that you have a relation to what you're talking about, that can be a storytelling in itself. And I also find that maybe people don't relate to the topic you're talking about, but they can all relate to be a human being. So if you're being yourself, talking about a topic that is not relatable to them, but you talk about it where it's very obvious that you have a relationship with the topic, then people can relate
Absolutely.
to that.
Mikhail, you're spot on. Absolutely. So I have this idea, this notion of you moments. Okay. So when these are you moments, these are parts of a strategy, let's say, that you sprinkle during your speech, especially a TEDx talk as well. You don't have, again, TEDx talk, I would say, is a good example of a kind of something that's similar to online, to the skills online, offline, because it's short. And we have to do the same things to get people's attention. So certainly at the beginning of a speech, at the beginning, getting people to relate to what you're doing by asking them how they would feel about it. Or have you ever, like, here's an example. So have you ever, Mika, have you ever actually wondered who has your name on social media? Have you ever thought about, another person with exactly the same name as you, who he actually is?
Yeah.
I'm sure you have, right? Well, I did that about 3 months ago, 4 months ago. And to cut a long story short, I found my direct cousin, the son of my uncle. I didn't even know I had. And then I mean, I could carry on with the story, but I won't. But the thing is, I asked you, have you ever looked for the same person with your name on social media? Now, if you haven't, I'm sure you can imagine that feeling if you found somebody in your family.
Sure.
So maybe you have looked for somebody, maybe you haven't, but I got you thinking of that feeling, how it feels to find someone, and how it feels to find someone who's actually a member of your family that you didn't even know. You see what I mean? So although you may have not done it, I started to get you thinking. Or I can do something like I can take you places, and then you decide then what it means to you. For example, I could say to you, so Mikael, we are now towards, well into the summer, well, almost right at the summer, although there are a lot of restrictions around. A lot of us are thinking about a holiday. A lot of us are thinking about sun. A lot of us are thinking about beaches, about getting away. So, Mikael, if you had the chance to have 2 weeks off from work and just do nothing at all, or use those 2 weeks the best you can, imagine what you would do with that. Imagine what you would do that. Feels good, huh? As you start to think what you're going to do with those 2 weeks, it feels good, right? So that is one example. So imagine, and I haven't really given you too many details. I gave you maybe details of what I would do. But when I said to you, you've got 2 weeks to use that 2 weeks off to do exactly as you wish. So, and I said to you, it feels good, doesn't it? You said to me, yes, because you're already there. You're there. I don't know where you are. Maybe you are on a beach. Maybe you're at home watching Netflix for 2 weeks because that's what you like to do, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're in the mountains somewhere. But I've taken you to a place where you've decided you want to be. And that's really often the where you want people to go. If you're taking them with you by giving them more detail and giving them more vivid detail in terms of sound, in terms of what they see, in terms of color, for example, then it becomes more specific. Then you have to think about the feeling. So I need to take you also on a place where you're going to feel good. So imagine that feeling. So how does it feel? How would it feel if you actually found someone who's the same name as you, and it's your family member that you didn't even know existed? I'm just telling you, I'm just showing you, giving you details, and then you're thinking and feeling how that feels. So saying to your audiences, imagine how it feels to blah 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 blah, or what would it feel like for you if blah 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 blah. And this is a really good way of getting people to go to a place which is relevant for them, but still taking them through your agenda.
Certainly. And I think one of the issues that we all kind of struggle with when it comes to virtual meetings are the eye contact feature or lack of eye contact. And I actually think that a lot of people, they fail to recognize that even in face-to-face meetings, they don't necessarily have eye contact all the time. But of course, what very often happens in a virtual meeting is that it's very difficult to have eye contact at all, because it means that both people have to look into the external camera, for instance, or in the top of the screen, meaning that both are looking into the camera and per se looking into the other person's eyes, but not seeing the other person in the eyes. So that is a thing I would like to dig into in a moment. And then the other thing I think it's important is when you're in person, you kind of have this energy or sense when to not interrupt, but when it's my turn to speak. Where in virtual meetings, I think I see a lot of people, talking over each other, because this natural little gap telling that now it's your turn is not so obvious when it's online. So and we cannot just sit like this and say, I want to say something. So the camera issue and the taking turns part, have you found a magical solution to that?
Okay. So first of all, let's go with the taking turns issue. So as somebody who is, focused on or passionate about speaking and sharing messages, I don't know whether you've noticed, but you do this very well as well. You're good at this also. You make it very easy for me to you give me the signals, the sounds. They're very easy for me to detect when you're kind of coming to an end, when you're finishing your sentence, or when you're kind of saying, okay, I've said what I have to say, I'm now going to retreat and I'm ready to listen. Yeah. And I try, and hopefully you're getting the same signals from me when I finish my part, or I finish what I have to say. And even if I have to jump in, you probably see on the screen the small signals I'm sharing with you to indicate I'm ready to kind of to say something else. Like for example, my hand might come up a little bit, or you see my eyebrows raise, and you can see me kind of nodding my head, almost taking a breath, ready to share that message. Yeah. So the thing is, if we make it easy, if we focus on this ourselves, we can't really do it for other people. But if we make it easy for the other person to know exactly when it's time for them to come in, that whole process starts to move in a better way. So I'm constantly doing that. And also the pauses, the silence, I'm kind of really happy. And I can sense you're someone who's happy with that as well. You're comfortable with those silences.
Yeah.
And we're okay with that. And that's a good thing. And we don't have to have speech in all the time. We can have, I can say something, or you can say something, and I could stand here and I can nod my head and think about that. and then maybe I have something to say, or maybe I don't, or then you can start again. But it's all about those signals that we're sharing and being aware of signals that we can share to help the other person know when it's right for them to come in.
Yeah, also because I think, especially when we're online like here, that when we talked about making storytelling more concise, maybe we should also think about making our statements shorter and more concise, because as you said, with the attention span, if someone talks for 2 to 3 minutes in a virtual meeting, even though it may be brilliant what's being said, people approximately 1 minute in will start to think about their response. And when they start thinking about the response, they're not really listening to the last 2 minutes of your presentation or your statement. So you can have the highest valued statements ever, but they will be valued if you disconnect with the audience. So I think I would rather have 3 good points and then bring them in 3 separate slots instead of in one long slot. Do you agree?
I fully agree, and I like the way you've expressed that, and you're right. You know, cutting it down, practicing. I mean, getting. You know, I imagine, I get the impression that over this last year, and as we continue to use this format constantly, regardless of what happens in the real world and things start to change, we'll still keep on doing this. The way we share our messages, we have just naturally got shorter and sharper and better at sharing messages. So the more we do it, we realize people aren't listening to us, or we realize that, you know, the messages aren't getting through, or we're looking and listening to other people, and we can hear it's a lot sharper, it's a lot quicker. So, so you're absolutely right. Going back to the previous question in terms of eye contact, that whole thing about looking where to look, that feeling of being looked at and listened to when you're looking through the camera, all of this is it's tough. It's not easy. Here's my take on it. Right. So when I look at this camera, when I look at right here, and I'm looking at this camera at you, you hopefully feel different things. Hopefully you feel like I'm listening to you. Yeah. Right. And hopefully you feel like, you know, I'm focused on you. I'm, you know, I'm not looking down at my phone. I'm not looking at other things. I'm not I might be thinking, looking up here, looking down here. But generally, when I'm looking at the camera at you, when I'm listening to you, and when I'm speaking or sharing my messages with you, you feel like I kind of respect you, and there's that connection, especially when you're talking and I'm listening to you, right? Which is really important. Yeah. So for me, looking at the camera and making sure that, you know, you feel these feelings, that is number one. So nearly, I don't know whether you noticed, but most of the time, occasionally I look down at myself and then at you here, but most of the time I'm looking at this camera. I've kind of trained myself to keep looking at the camera, because what's important for you is that I look at you. Yeah. And I listen to you, regardless of whether I can see you. I can, you know, regardless of whether you're talking and I'm looking at you, because when I look at you, there is a slight difference of eye contact. And when I'm looking at myself, you can see I'm looking down. I can see myself looking down. Yeah. When I look up and look through here, that's number one. Yeah. So my tip would be, the better you train yourself to keep looking at the camera, and that's really difficult because naturally as humans, we want to look at people. Whenever a face comes up, we look at it. And on the face, we look at the eyes. Yeah. Right? So whenever our face comes up, bam, we want to look at ourselves. Or whenever somebody else's face comes up, we want to look at them. Yeah. So I've kind of trained myself to look at the lens as much as I can. Yeah. As much as I can, to give you the feeling, because I'm at the end of the day, in all of this, I want you to feel like I'm, you know, this connection with you. Yeah. And the best way to do that is looking at the camera. And it seems strange because in the real world, would I look at you directly eye to eye for so long? Probably not. No. But here, it's slightly more intimate, isn't it? It's almost like this intimate, although it's 2D, it is intimate because we need to connect quicker and we need to connect better in a better way. So you're talking, let's say you were talking to me and I'm listening to you. I would tend to look at the camera more than you. Yeah. But I also would be listening. My listening skills are more acute, I would say, because I'm really listening out for the signals you're sharing in your voice, like when it's my next turn or how you're feeling. Naturally, the facial expression, micro expressions, tell us so much. Yeah. But then you have to weigh up. Is it worth looking? Is it worth looking at somebody's face to get their expression? Is it better to do that, or to look at them and to show your expression, to show how you're feeling regarding them? And that's really the balance. But for me, it's more about looking at the camera and trying to avoid looking anywhere else if possible.
Yeah, because I think we're both, we both know a lot about and work with and train in nonverbals and body language and trying to read people. Are they on board? Are they drifting away, etc.? And what I find is difficult is that I try as well to look into the camera like I'm doing most of the time here. However, the sacrifice is that I'm seeing you slightly to my left. I'm not seeing, I can see you nodding, but I cannot necessarily see maybe I can see your eyebrows lift a bit, but I cannot really see a lot of your micro expressions, for instance.
That's true.
So I have to rely, if I look into the camera as I'm doing right now, I have to rely on the macro expressions to see, do I see nodding? And if I see nodding, I would expect you to have a positive micro expression.
And you have to rely on my voice. So when I'm speaking, my voice will hopefully tell you a little bit about how I'm feeling in regards to what you've been sharing, right? So you would hear my reaction. You would, I'm sure, and the better we get at being more aware of this, the better we can kind of unpack those signals through the voice. Right. So if I'm disengaged, or I'm not really interested in what you're saying, or, it doesn't really mean a lot to me, or whatever it is, that will come out. That often will come out when I start speaking with you. Right. Yeah. Another thing is as well. So for example, now this is our conversation between me and you, Mikhail, right? It's very personal. It's one-to-one. It's just us. But in fact, it's not just us, because we both know people will be watching this in a recording later, right? Yeah. So again, that's another thing to think about. Yeah. When I'm looking at you and speaking to you, I'm almost in a way looking at people that are watching us. Yeah. So if it's just a meeting between two of you, as much as you can look through the camera, but be aware if it's something that is going online afterwards, or there's more people on the call, like it's a webinar, that even means more, because you're hopefully connected with more people.
I also I picked up a pretty good tip also from Rachel Kosar, as you also know, where she said that, because of course now I'm recording it, so I'm having a split screen with me on one side and you on the other side. However, if you're in a one-to-one meeting, she suggested that you might turn off your own view, the view of yourself, because people tend to, if you can see yourself, you kind of want to check out, do I have something in my teeth? Is my hair right? How is the lighting? And suddenly you're not that present, because you're present with your own image that you're looking at, rather than being engaged with Peter Hopwood. So yeah, right now I'm filming both of us because it's being recorded, but I've had quite some good takeaways by removing myself visually from the screen, so that I have more focus on the person I'm talking with.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Really good tip. Absolutely. So yeah, seeing yourself can be a distraction.
Yeah.
can be a distraction. We tend to keep looking at that. So
Yeah.
right now, what for me, I've got you just underneath my camera in a small little box.
Yeah.
It's about that far from the camera lens,
Yeah.
which is quite good, really. But I'm
Yeah.
looking as much as I can at the camera here. And
Mm.
below that, I've got the big screen of myself. I'm okay with that because
Yeah.
I know I'm not going to be looking at myself too much. But
Yeah.
in the corners of my eyes, right?
Yeah.
I can see very well how I'm moving, my space. So I'm looking at you right now, but I can see I have here, and this is my little area here where my hands are. I can see, I can see how far I'm moving, and the gap between the top of my head and the frame as well, to make sure it's not like this, so I have that. I just have that only maybe because I'm used to that, and I'm happy with corner of my eyes. But good tip if you're somebody who tends to constantly look at themselves, and if it's a distraction, take it away.
Sure.
Any distractions, take them away.
So when you do this training that you have done, and you do it now virtually, what are like the top tricks that you tell people? We've talked about being passionate about what you talk about, or inventing a passion, so that you at least have this natural energy, and so that you become edutaining. You educate, but you also entertain in the same thing. We talked about storytelling, not necessarily long stories, but short, concise, relatable. Maybe not relatable from the topic. It could be, but it could also be the very fact that you have a relationship with a topic, and everybody have tried to have a relationship with something. So if that comes across strong, it will engage. Talk about the camera thing. Maybe not be too rigid on looking at the camera all the time, but being mindful about doing it, especially if it's being recorded, etc. So what are if we were to sum it up, what would be some of your key takeaways that you deliver to CEOs and other great people?
I think I can go through a whole bunch of ideas, but I'll try and keep them short and sweet, and just throw a few things out right now. So the first thing we really focus on is actually this. Again, nobody needs to listen to you. People's time is very, very important. We have to be concise and see this as a good thing. So we use this every day. Most of us use this every single day, right? Yeah. And if I was to ask you, Mikkel, think about yesterday, your Zoom calls. Which ones do you remember? All your Zoom calls or all your virtual exchanges? Probably not. Probably not many of those will stick out. So we have to see this as something good, as a way of really connecting, and we have to stand out. Yeah. We have to be memorable. People have to remember us, and people have to feel something from us, because we're doing them all the time, and they come and go, and it's just like email. For many of us, we see email as a very something that we do for years. We've been doing for years and years and years. Simple way of communicating, but as you know, with email communication, there are ways of really standing out and being memorable. So we have to get people to think about that and feel, actually, let's do this. The other thing is the commitment. Think about the commitments. Again, we're on Zoom calls all the time. The only commitment physically we have two commitments physically: being here, right? I'm here right now. You're there. We agreed to be here together at this time. You might be there anyway. Probably are. This is my home. I'm here anyway, right? Yeah. So I've kind of carved out 60 minutes or so with you, and you've done the same with me. Also, the other commitment you have physically is your finger. Click. That's all you've done. Click to get here. We haven't had to travel anywhere. We haven't had to really. We've prepared, both of us. So we've spent a bit of time preparing. But if it was a physical meeting, there'd be more preparation, probably more commitment, and probably maybe even some money involved, investment on getting here or working out, because let's say if this is not about business, we're not we're going to collaborate. We're collaborating online on this podcast. But if it was business, naturally there'd probably be some investment done on both sides somewhere, small or maybe a bit bigger, right? The only commitment we have is this finger click. So you don't know, you don't know, and I don't know usually how committed you are to this call, whether you really want this call, whether you're excited about this call, whether it means a lot to you, because for many people, you know, we're clicking onto our Zoom calls all day long, and that I'm just one more click. I'm just one more Zoom call. So we have to get people to feel like this is, you know, I'm looking forward to this. So when we start the call, in our exchanges or in the invitation, you know, I'm really looking forward to this. You know, I'm really excited to be speaking to you and to exploring ideas of collaboration together. Or I might send you maybe something more about me, maybe, you know, check out my LinkedIn page, give you more of an example of more of a flavor of who I am before we actually meet. So before we actually get here, we know more about each other and we're more emotionally connected with each other. And we can feel this is, you know, when we're actually here, there's already that connection. And so often we don't have that connection with the people that we're speaking to in front of us, right?
True.
So it's about building up commitment, showing commitment, and getting people to feel like there's already an emotional connection before you actually get here. Another one as well is, again, think about this. Think about movement and think about connected with the attention span. So you can hear I'm doing many different things to try to keep your attention, and listeners as well, and people who are watching this. So you can see I'm using my arms, using my hands here. I'm sharing ideas and my emotions are going. I'm sharing, maybe sometimes I'm quicker with my voice. I'm happier. Maybe sometimes I'm slower. I'm giving a little bit more depth to my voice. Maybe I'm bringing my hands up here. Maybe it's more down here. Sometimes I'm putting my hand here behind me, and kind of my head is slightly tilted and nodding when you're speaking. Nodding when you're speaking, which hopefully gives you this impression that I'm listening more to you. Do you see what I mean? So what I'm saying is almost like an attention reset. So I'm constantly resetting the ways I'm sharing my messages, which are simply signals, which mean something to you, the listener or the person watching. So I have to keep those signals coming and mix up those signals to keep your attention and to make things really clear on how I'm feeling. So in a way, we're almost amplifying those signals. So we amplify them through our gestures, through our voice, through our body, and what we say. Does that make sense?
Good point. I actually tried to sum up in my head some of the very key features of what you said, and what I really like is that we talked about, you know, having a passion for what you're talking about, but you could also say, as you said, also apart from that, have a passion for being here. You know, have a passion for the meeting, because we have all, I think, fallen prey of saying, oh, I look forward to the world reopening so we can skip these Zoom meetings, and oh, I look forward. But the thing is, we're not going to skip these Zoom meetings. So the more we talk negatively about virtual meetings, the more our brain will send signals that every time we go into a meeting, we're going into a negativity state of mind. So I really like the way you think about not only committing to passion for your topic or for your speech, but actually also having passion for the media, for the medium being the virtual meeting. I look forward to having this Zoom meeting because that will reset your energy so that when the meeting starts, it will come off as if this is a memorable thing.
You got it. You got it. Absolutely. I mean, you know, and all these signals and all you can see, hopefully you can see I'm standing. So I stand. And I used to sit for quite a few months. Aggressively. As soon as I started standing,
Yeah.
I felt my energy was better, especially at
True.
the end of the day
Yeah.
when you had lots of Zoom calls or virtual calls, exchanges.
Mm.
I sound better because I've got
Yeah.
more air.
Yeah.
I look like I'm presenting,
Yeah.
and I look like, if it's high stakes or something to do with, sharing ideas or pitching an idea or trying to persuade someone to do business with you. If
Mm.
I, just by standing up, I'm kind of sharing a subconscious message that, I've stood up to share this. I'm
Yeah.
not sitting down to
You're burning
pitch
calories
you.
to
I'm pitching to
share
you,
your
or I'm
message.
presenting. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm standing up. So those very small details can actually mean so much.
Yeah, and actually also right now I'm sitting, but you're totally right. When you're standing, your hands will also more natural underscore your messages and underline them and pin them, because sometimes when you sit down, you naturally interlace your hands, or you rest them on the armrest, and that
Yeah,
that,
and
that
all
takes some of the energy out of it.
that's
And
right.
your
And
shoulders,
also, there are
yeah,
many things that happen when you sit, because your shoulders go down. So
yeah,
your automatically shoulders will go down, and your
mm,
stomach goes like, not squeezes, but it's smaller.
yeah,
So that means less air gets in.
yeah,
Less air gets in, less that affects the quality. So the quality of your voice is always dependent on the quality of the air in your body. So yeah, so it's thinking about that. But remember, you don't always have to stand. Having a conversation or a discovery call or an exploration about an idea or somebody you already know,
mm,
and sitting down is perfectly fine. But just think to yourself, just try it.
yeah,
Try standing up, and then you'll kind of, as time goes on, you'll work out when it's best to stand and when it's best to sit.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know if I can actually show this, but I have this stand that I can sort of film, where, you can see I have my lighting, but I also have this stand where my computer can be placed on, so that I can actually, if I stand up, I can move the shelves up,
Yeah,
so that
absolutely.
I can place the camera and the laptop on something that is more in eye height. Or if I
Yeah.
sit down, I can remove. So you get these sort of modern furnitures that can help you adjust to virtual meetings, where you want to sit down or where you want to stand up. That has been really helpful to me.
Yeah, that's great. Having adjustable furniture that helps you do that. So if you're sitting or standing or sitting, you can easily change that. For me,
Yeah,
I stand now all the time. So I
yeah,
make it for me, it's because it's what I do, and I'm very comfortable with that. Not
yeah,
everybody will be comfortable standing every single time. I do, and I've got used to that.
yeah,
I make my environment around me as comfortable as I can. So I've actually got, believe it or not, an ironing board. So this underneath my camera's here, then my
yeah,
laptop's here. Underneath here is an ironing board, and the great thing about that is it's thin, so it doesn't
yeah.
take too much space. It's perfect for resting, so I can put books or other notes and things to the side.
Mm,
And it goes up, and they usually go up quite high. This one
yeah,
is, I think, 93 centimeters,
yeah,
but with a few books and a few boxes, it's up to my eye level.
yeah,
And this thing about eye level, I
mm,
think Rachel mentioned it earlier
yeah,
on in her when she was speaking with you, which is some fantastic points. So just to move on from that, it's often about, the good thing is trying to get equality.
mm,
So equality in many ways. So physical equality. So
mm,
if I'm looking down, if I was to say, if I did that and I was standing up and I had my laptop like this and looking down at you, I
yeah,
almost have this impression I'm looking down. If I'm doing this, or maybe looking up, let's say it
yeah,
was up there, I have the
yeah,
same thing. So I'm trying to get sort of equality with my eyes. If I'm
yeah,
on the same level of you as you,
mm,
then I'm kind of, there's this emotional connection, which
yeah,
sometimes you don't get when it's physical. Because if it's somebody that's very tall, and it's somebody that's a lot shorter, if you're standing, there's
mm,
that difference of equality.
yeah,
If you're sitting, you got that equality.
yeah,
But if you're standing and you have the camera level with your eyes, regardless of your height, You've got this equality. Also, the equality, just quickly, the equality of what you say.
Yeah.
So I always, especially on let's say at a conference, or if I'm sharing a presentation, many speakers, and I've seen this so many times in the past, naturally a speaker's life is quite a solo life, and and because maybe if you do it professionally and get paid a lot of money for it, and your company pays you to be there, and there's a lot of hype about you being there, and people pay tickets to be there to watch you, it kind of gives you this impression that you're special, right?
Yeah.
Which a lot of speakers unfortunately feel. But the thing is, what you say to your audience, you have to make them feel like you're equal as well.
Yeah.
So although you may have a lot of knowledge to share about a specific topic,
Yeah.
and you have expertise in an area, you still have to make people feel like you're equal. You're not better than them. You're not higher than them. You're not looking down on them. You're not, you're not special. What you are, you're there to share a special message, right? So the value you're sharing. So this sense of equality with your audience is really important.
Yeah.
So in what you say, and here, if it's relevant for what we do here, trying to get this level as best we can. I'm looking at your frame now. Let me just. I've got you right. I've just put you right big now, so you're on my screen.
Yeah.
If I was to say to you, if there was a few tips to give you right now, what I would say is perhaps, because your camera is slightly upwards, isn't it? It's slightly lower, and you're looking down, right?
Yeah, actually, it's almost it's. I'm looking slightly down on it. It could be higher.
Yeah, what's telling me that is the lines on your ceiling.
Yeah.
The perspective of your lines, and I can see your whole ceiling, right? Yeah. So if I was to see less of your ceiling, and then really like level with your eyes, that would make quite a big difference over time.
I would also work with the lighting because right now I'm in a living room where I get a lot of light from the side, and it makes it, even with the ring light, it makes it difficult to have a proper lighting.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I would also like to have a place that would have less depth.
Yeah. So I actually really like this where you are. It looks great actually. Your lighting above, and then you these steps that you come down. The only thing is, for me, my first impression is that you're like underground somewhere. Is that right? Are you underground?
No, it's not but I agree that it could look like that from the ceiling.
Yeah, because you got ceiling and you got steps. The light is above, and there's the only kind of light I feel perhaps you've got here is, or the impression I get. Actually completely different. That's a completely different perspective than what I thought. Because I felt in this basement, and you've put the lights on, and all the light is upstairs, and you're downstairs in the basement cave, right? Yeah. You've just shown me the light across. So you're not there. So if I was in your position, I would start thinking about how can I use that light that's on your right as natural light on your face, and give this impression that you're not underground. Maybe away from the stairs. Maybe because as soon as you put those stairs in and the light is above, it gives me this impression that it's better up there. Like lights are up there, and life is up there, and it's all like everything's going on up there, and we're down here. Why are we down here?
I totally agree, and that's the problem with making the interior work with the situation. Because you have your sofas, you have your furniture, you need to place it somewhere. But I totally agree, and it's a work in progress, as we say. But Peter, I will finish off by saying I had a lot of both fun, but also good takeaways from some of your YouTube videos, your TEDx talk. So I can highly recommend people to go see your videos and your speeches on there for more information. Because as you know, even as I know a lot about this subject, I get inspired by fellow speakers, fellow coaches, because we all have, most of us, some of the same ideas, but we share them differently, and we have little tweaks and little twists and turns that we can all, learn from each other. So even if you're a professional speaker and you've done it many times, I will recommend people go see your videos and pick up these little nuggets of new information, and even the old information. Just use the old information to reinforce your good habits, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I say, so right now it's all about, a lot of my work is about virtual training, helping companies,
Yeah.
teams, whether it's sales, marketing, whatever, leaders, to really get good
Yeah.
at this. And
Yeah.
so they're the same skills, they're
Yes.
similar skills and similar psychology as speaking in public. It's just
Yeah.
bringing them to this format and making it work for you the best.
Yeah.
So yeah, anybody who's interested or thinks maybe their team needs to step up, or just wants to create better connection, better chemistry, and hopefully lead towards better outcomes and maybe even better business, reach out to me over LinkedIn, and then let's see where we can perhaps collaborate.
I will highly encourage them to do that, because it's a medium that has come to last, and we'll continue to have this. And those who end up excel in use of this media will be a horse head in front of the competitors. And yeah, why not grab that extra advantage, right?
Absolutely. The ones
Okay.
who have more awareness and are showing that they're focused on really communicating well in this
Yeah.
virtual setting are the ones that are going to have that small but important competitive advantage. Definitely.
Yeah, thank you very much, Peter. And next time when you see me, I will make sure my lighting is different. My ceiling is gone. I'll be on top of the world, and I'll be standing up.
Literally.
I'll do a lot of things. So thank you so much for sharing your time with me, spending your time with me, and hopefully people watching this will take away the nuggets and reinforce the things they knew in advance. They will get reinforced on that, and then make the twitches that will make them go from good to great.
Fantastic, Mikael. It's been a pleasure, and you never know. Hopefully, maybe we can do this again sometime.
And maybe even in the physical world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Have good fun and take care.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye,
Bye.
Mikael. Bye.
Bye.